Anime is saved, and I'm taking credit for it.
Why?
Welcome back to MALadjusted.
We skipped a week, and now you're saying that you saved anime
Well, I
after
think
skipping a week
we...
of our anime podcast.
No. We
Look,
together saved anime. And we'll get to that later.
yeah, we will. We gotta start off the ritual. Hit me
Yeah.
with seasonals.
I think I'll start off with just the stuff that I watched, and then we'll get to the stuff we watched together. Just I don't have a ton to say about the stuff that only I watched, for good or for bad. So as far as the detective is already dead, I think we have finished the flashback episodes. Do you know how many flashback episodes there were?
I don't, but can I guess?
Yeah, this is a 12 episode anime, mind you.
4.
The answer is 6.
What the fuck?
Half of the series thus far has been a singular flashback.
A single flashback.
One flashback.
It's not that's not a flash. Why?
Yeah, people are raging. I mean, I would too if I was like a fan of the light novel, I guess. I mean, maybe this means that I should just read the light novel instead.
Maybe.
But, I mean, people are saying like, "No, it's good," but the anime adaptation is no good. Which like, it's the anime adaptation isn't like terrible, but I feel like it did deliberately waste my time devoting half of the show to a singular flashback.
Yeah, that is a long time to do a flashback.
Yeah. I feel like if you were pacing this show maybe a little bit more intelligently, you could intersperse those flashbacks as smaller segments in the main story and get across everything you needed to just to provide context instead
Yeah.
of cutting away for so long. Uh,
That's
the secondary protagonist, the main female lead, I haven't seen her in 6 episodes.
well, she's dead.
No. The main female lead, the new girl,
The other one, the
who
other one, the
yeah,
other one.
yeah, yeah. You didn't see her because you only watched the first episode.
That's right.
But maybe in the last 3 episodes they'll do something fun. But I'm not I'm not terribly I'm not setting my expectations terribly high on this one. It had a fun first episode, and I thought it had potential as like a fun, stupid story, and it kind of just dragged along. So unlucky.
I saw it coming from the start.
Well, good for you.
Yeah, I ain't getting tricked. I've been tricked before though.
I've been tricked. I think we've both been tricked a number of times.
Yeah, more than once for sure. I won't.
You more
front.
than me.
Nope.
Mm.
Name one time.
Anyway, the aquatope on white sand continues to, I guess, meet my expectations. I've kind of accepted that it's not going to be a girls kissing show. So, they're just going to have this, like, power of friendship. Like, you were the older sister I always wanted all along. You can be my surrogate One-chan or whatever. Which is, like, fine, I guess. The character, this episode, the most recent one, mostly revolved around currently under construction new aquarium, which is supposed to replace the one which our main characters work at and is supposedly going out of business. Comes and there's conflict between the main character Kukuru and the guest aquarium worker who's trying to learn the ropes of the aquarium, and the episode ends with Kukuru going to see the new under construction aquarium because she's trying to figure out, she was like lectured like, oh, you're just a kid, you're just here because your grandfather runs the aquarium, you don't know how hard it is to actually try to get a job in this industry and all that. And she's, I guess, the next part of the story is going to be her like trying to prove herself, I guess, in some way. But It's fine. I'm still having fun with it. Uh, it's a 24 episode series, so the main like thread of the plot may not have even revealed itself yet, or it could just
Yeah,
meander like this and just be like a show that feels kind of nice to watch the whole time. In which case, it'll meet my expectations. I'll
it's
be
chill.
okay with it. And Fena Pirate Princess continues to be like, I think this is a show that will probably review well with like young people and like, battle shonen fan type people. It actually reminds me a lot of not a shonen series, but a shojo series, Yona of the Dawn. Have you ever heard of that one?
By name, but not by content.
Yeah, Yona of the Dawn is a series similarly about a princess who, is on the run from her home kingdom. Well, Fena is, she's not necessarily on the run from her home kingdom. She's on the run from where she was raised on this like island brothel. But,
Oh,
same idea, on the run from some authority. And hangs around with a bunch of very pretty boys and goes on adventures to try to solve some mystery, surrounding her like heritage or father or something. Yona the Dawn, I watched almost all of it. I think I literally just forgot to watch the last like two episodes, but it's a fine show, and I think Fena is in the same vein of fine show. It's definitely meant for a younger audience, I think, than me. And I think tweaked because it is a co-production with Adult Swim and Crunchyroll. Uh, I think it is definitely meant for much more of a. It's tweaked for Westerners, I think, a lot, just in terms of like its humor and its presentation. Still a very good-looking, generally engaging anime. I think I won't feel too bad about continuing to watch it. It might get boring, but who knows?
yeah. Seems, One Piece too.
Uh, it's
I
definitely,
don't, for the record, I know shit about One Piece except for he goes stretchy mode and he's a pirate.
yeah, there's the pirate angle for sure.
Yeah, that's it.
Although
That's my
really they're
extent of
more
One Piece
like,
knowledge.
they're less pirates, they're more ninjas on a boat.
That's fine.
Yeah, it's fine. There's I know there was like a funny sequence where like the main character Fena, she feels bad about in a previous episode she was kind of dead weight in a fight. They got ambushed by people trying to hunt her down, and her main, the main like love interest boy who is very pretty, uh, he gets injured, and she feels bad, and she's like, I want to learn how to fight. And there's just like there's two funny montages of her being refused by every single one of the team on the boat, like, I won't teach you how to fight. And then there's another funny montage where they do try to teach her how to fight and she sucks at it. So, you know some comedy.
Eh, no
But
montage will ever top the Konosuba working montage, but that's fine. We can't expect perfection every time. Every time I think of anime montages, I literally just think of that.
I don't remember what you're talking about. It's actually been a while since I watched Konosuba.
There's a montage in Konosuba that goes on for like a minute and a half, like too long, of like Kazuma and Aqua just like doing hard labor and like grinding with like the same like 5 shots of animation interspersed with like different cuts of like Aqua like throwing up or some shit like that, and it's so fucking funny because it just goes on for too long.
Okay.
It's gold. I'll link it. We'll talk. I'll link it to you after we're done here.
Okay. I might need to rewatch that just because it is
It's
funny.
so fucking funny,
I think
man.
comedy anime are probably the most rewatchable.
Yeah, for sure.
But as far as stuff that just I watched in terms of seasonals, that's really it. I'm, for the most part, okay with these shows. We've kind of gone past the halfway point of the season, and I think generally I'm not like severely disappointed. I'm a little bit miffed at the detective is already dead, but like that was a kind of coin toss, you know,
Yeah.
whether I was gonna be good or bad to begin with. But otherwise, I'm like content, I guess, with everything I've been watching. Aside from the two shows that we've both been watching. So, what have you been thinking about the latest episodes of Dragon Maid?
So rather characteristically, for me on this show, I am an episode behind on both of the shows I've been watching this season.
Very funny.
Um, but the last episode, I think it was the one where Idalu and the dude like go down the river and they like try to get to where the river forks.
That
That's one of
wasn't
the only
that.
things.
No, no, no. You're thinking of the bit with Saikawa and Kanna. They go down the river. There's another
Oh
bit where
yeah,
Irulu
yeah,
and
yeah.
Take they go with a doll to try to find the owner of
Oh,
the
they do the
doll.
doll. Yeah, they try to find the dog. Yeah, I watched. That was that episode. Did that episode open with like that? No, I think that was the previous episode with Shota and the tits lady.
Lukoa.
Yeah, they've been showing those two a lot this season.
Yeah, I
I
think
wonder why.
I think they're definitely trying to give more screen time to like the secondary cast because they've
Yeah,
in the first season they did kind of spend a lot of it just establishing kind of like Kobayashi and Toru's relationship.
yeah.
And you know, now they're like, okay, we have all these other characters and let's see where we can go from there.
Yeah, it seems just more like individual, like little story based. I feel like the first season was more focused on like episode long uh little like incidents, like there one episode would be like we're going to Kamiket, and then in this season they go to Kamiket for like 5 minutes and then they're on to the next little story.
Yeah, we did mention this before on the show where this is very much kind of in the same style as the adaptation of Nichijou, which obviously the director is the same guy.
Yeah, the director's not the same guy.
So
I
it,
like it.
yeah, I do like it. It's just a difference in style.
Yeah. I just like that it doesn't really linger on things too much. It's always well, except when they have to explain a long ass backstory nobody cares about. Then that's half an episode.
You mean the and the thing is that's like a story beat that if you watched the most recent episode, it did kind of reach a resolution where it's kind of like examining the relationship between Toru and Elma where it goes over their history together, which is not really the most interesting thing. It's not really something that I necessarily wanted from the series. I think the fantasy stuff in like the most boring part, like the other world, like looking into like what the other world is like. It's like who cares? It's just like I just get to think of it as like generic fantasy world, and that's all I
Yeah.
want. It's
That's
like
I really don't want anything else from it because I don't think it would deliver anything else than generic fantasy world.
yeah, I mean, if you want to know what that world delivers, if you paid full attention to it, go ahead and watch Peach Boy Riverside if you can discern how to watch that show.
Yeah. Yeah, not much to say about it other than it's still funny. It's still like keeping my attention. It's still fun to just put on and kick back and have a little laugh or two.
Yeah, it's nice. You know, I still am not a fan of like the LMAO look at her tits kind of humor, but that's just how it is.
Yeah, it's just how it is, man. But I think I'll expand on that thought later in this episode. But you know, Sunny Boy.
Sunny boy, sunny boy, sunny boy. Did you watch episode 8 or did you only watch episode 7?
Which one's episode 7?
Episode 7 is the one with Futatsuboshi, the tower, the
I haven't. That's the most recent one I watched. Yeah.
Okay. So I'll just talk about this one. Well, actually, what are your thoughts on the episode first?
I like the there's like a new faction because it's really I didn't know, I don't know why they're there, and it's confusing as shit, and I feel like I don't know what's going on again.
Mm-hmm.
So that was cool. I liked the whole ant allegory throughout the entire episode. I thought that was cute. Uh, it was just another good episode, you
Yeah.
know, sort of establishing some more shit,
Yeah,
adding the
and
mystery.
I think it's really kind of giving us an opportunity to kind of focus more closely on Nagara as a main character,
Yeah,
because the first, like the first section of the show up until the graduation episode was kind of just establishing, a lot of different characters, setting up a lot of ideas, introducing the world, getting you familiar with some concepts. And now that we're familiar with these concepts, it is introducing a few more complications to that. Like it introduces this like governing body of all these who knows how many different groups of students that have been, set adrift, uh, presumably by Nagara's power. Uh, and like the organization Beatnik, which probably means something. Uh,
I'd wager.
yeah, and it does, like I said, it focuses in on Nagara as a character, and it's giving him an opportunity to, uh, change and like maybe not necessarily change, but it's like highlighting aspects of his personality that we may not have been able to see previously,
Yeah,
and giving us just more information about him. Uh, because in this episode he does get kind of, I guess, kidnapped by Komori, uh, the bat. This guy who works for this organization, Beatnik, who is given the responsibility to appropriately punish Nagara by this, council, punish Nagara for sending them adrift. And he, for one, this guy is just a really funny one-off character. I don't know if he'll come back, but I do
yeah,
like him because it's he's visually just a lot of fun. He's just a regular guy, but he's like inside this like umbrella, and he flies. But if you'll notice while watching the show, he flies because his power is like he's able to kind of reverse gravity. I guess he's able to turn things upside down.
yeah.
He flies just by his character just like flips upside down over and over again. So he's just like constantly
It's
falling
so
one way or
funny.
another, and that's how he flies. It's really funny. I like it a lot.
Yeah, it's such a sick little character design. I like when you finally see his face and his hair's just
Yeah,
falling.
his hair is falling up because he's like upside down. It's it's so funny. I like that guy a lot. But yeah, Nagara gets sent to as like, I guess, punishment or maybe a test. I don't know. He gets sent to this, this another one of this worlds where everyone there, all the students that have been set adrift in this particular world, are all just constructing a tower upside down. They're they don't know why. They don't know when it'll be done. They know it's kind of pointless, but it is the life that they're living.
Yeah, it's how that shit goes.
And I think that is, that I guess is the kind of the test that Nagara has given. Is he going to just, like all these other characters in this world, is he going to accept the life that he's been given and just try to live that life uh, just as much as he can? Or is he going to try to make a change? Is he going to try to break out? And at the end of the episode, because he does figure out the secret of the world, he's able to, I guess, confront Komori. Uh, he's, I guess, just let go because I guess he passed the test. Not
Yeah,
so much a
Kimura's just like, all
punishment,
right,
really.
this guy's right. All right, let's chill. Because everyone else at the end of the episode was like, "What the? Why'd you let him go?" And he's
Yeah,
like, "All
why'd you
right,
let him go? He's like,
I
listen,
don't know, he was chill."
it's fine. And I did like at the end of the episode, the character, like, leading the meeting is like, are you sure that this isn't going to cause any more tragedies? And Komori responds saying something to the effect of, there will be no more unnecessary tragedies, which is like, I
Yeah.
think a pretty important distinction that he makes there is like, yeah, there's probably still going to be bad stuff that's going to happen, but that's stuff that is going to happen.
Yeah, it'll happen for a reason.
Yeah, which makes me, interested to see what that could possibly mean.
Yeah, what did he mean by this?
Episode 8, I'm not gonna kind of like spoil you on because I want you to watch it, but it does give like it's a full episode entirely devoted to Yamabiko, the dog.
Nice.
And it's a really good episode, I thought.
Yeah, I like the dog guy. He's cool.
That's, Sunny Boy. I think it's really, it felt a little bit like, just paint on a wall at first. Like, I have no clue what any of this could possibly mean, what it means now, but it's starting to become more cohesive as the series goes on. And I really do hope that by the end, there's, something, there's a potential for something really interesting and meaningful to be there. So I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm excited to keep watching it, even though I didn't watch it this week. Just ignore that part.
Yeah, we're going to have to talk about 2 episodes again next time.
And hey, maybe I'll still be behind an episode. Who knows?
I'm going to throw you off a
I won't. I'll
bridge.
watch it. I'll watch it. I'll watch it.
Okay,
I'll watch
okay, okay,
it.
okay, okay. So I have some stuff that is not seasonal that I watched and read. I read some manga,
You read some
but
shit?
I want you to go because you apparently have a secret surprise show which you
We
have
can get
listed in
to
the
it.
document.
We can get to it. We'll get to it.
Okay, do you want me to go first then?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so I guess I'll start first with some stuff that I rewatched because I rewatched 2 movies.
Uh-huh.
I rewatched The Girl Who Leapt Through Time, which was directed by Mamoru Hosoda. His most recent film is Belle, apparently doing big numbers in Japanese box office. Very famous director, big shot, you know?
Yeah,
Uh,
big up there.
I still think this is his best movie.
You do?
Yeah, it's just like, I don't know, it feels, because all of his movies are kind of like normal human emotional situation enhanced with this fantasy supernatural element to them. And I think this one strikes the best balance between those fantasy supernatural elements and the real human emotional story that, is colored by those elements. Uh, it's a good romance. I think it portrays the way that like, younger people kind of interact with romance really well. The main character, she gains this ability to, leap through time and basically go back in time, do a do over. And she learns that they have finite uses after, using a whole bunch of them strictly to try to dodge getting asked out by one of her friends. And I think that's just like one of the funniest bits is her
That
just
is
like
sick.
over and over again trying to dodge getting asked out by this guy. Uh, but yeah, it's a good looking movie too. It has kind of his, I guess I would call it a signature style where it's, the kind of Summer Warsy Digimon the movie kind of like technological big white space kind of look to it in a lot of scenes. Uh, it's cool. Just a good movie. I would definitely recommend watching it. I think it's his best movie partially because he didn't write it. Because I think he's a better director than he is a screenwriter.
Fair.
And yeah, that's all I really have to say about that. It's just a good film. Uh, what I also rewatched, which is more than a good film, I think it's a fantastic movie, is Penguin Highway. Penguin Highway, adapted from the novel by Tomihiko Morimi. Basically, a person I'm an obnoxious fan of because I liked anime adapted from his novels, and I bought the only 2 novels of his that are available in English, which is The Night of Short Walk on Girl and Penguin Highway, and they're both very good. But Penguin Highway, the movie, is a really fun kind of coming of age story with a fantasy sci-fi inflection to it that follows this like little like wunderkind boy genius type uh, who is very self-serious and styles himself as like a scientist and kind of facts and logic boy, but not in as annoying a way as you'd think. uh, Follows him kind of discovering this phenomenon of these mysterious penguins that are appearing in his small town, and his interactions with his friends, his kind of juvenile crush on the mature dentist assistant lady. It's all very, it feels very wholesome for the most part. There's like definitely some, I think, well placed, generally kind of immature like humor, like little boys kind of have with a childish way they talk about like boobs. There's a few jokes
Yeah.
in there, some opie jokes.
Boobs.
Woo. And I think I'm kind of like losing my train of thought here just thinking about it, because it is just like every element of it is just really fantastically executed. It's extremely well paced. Uh, it's beautifully animated. The characters are the performances by all the voice actors. Of course, as to be expected with any of these professional productions. There's very good performances. The soundtrack, even the like, I guess main theme of the film is a Utara Hikaru song, which again it only plays at the end, but it's a banger. I like it. Uh, yeah, I just want to gush about it for a little bit, just because I think it's a fantastic movie. Uh, if you like movies that give you like a youthful energy, I think it's definitely worth a watch. It makes you kind of like, it kind of forces you to see the world through these very immature childish eyes in a way that I think is pretty novel.
And was that about titties or Penguin Highway?
Penguin Highway.
True. Yeah, that one landed.
As far as the manga that I read, I did read two manga recently. I read Inio Asano's A Girl on the Shore, and I read Junji Ito's newest manga, Censor. Now, A Girl on the Shore, have you read any Inio Asano manga before?
Yes, I have.
Okay, which ones have you read?
I've only read Downfall.
Okay, so previous Inio Asano manga that I've read was, I read Solanin, which I also recently purchased a physical copy of with A Girl on the Shore, and I read Oyasumi Pun Pun, Good Night Pun Pun, and I read those back to back, and it was pretty rough. They,
Yeah,
those manga leave you down bad for a while.
he's not a very cheerful writer.
No, he kind of has this way of making stories that kind of poke at the very uncomfortable aspects of you know life and love and relationships and maturity in ways that you don't really want to think about because they are uncomfortable, but he like kind of sheds light on it in a way that really makes you want to look away, but you don't,
Yeah.
because it's really beautifully drawn. He's an excellent artist. And A Girl on the Shore was, I think, the manga that most made me want to look away,
Oh yeah.
because this is a manga about these teenagers, these I think last year middle school students, so they're about 14, right?
Uh-huh.
And they have a lot of sex in this manga,
Ah,
and
that's no good.
they show it, and they're not afraid to
Ah.
show it, and they show it often, and it happens often, and there's like the actual acts the sexual acts within the manga get more and more extreme, and I understand why. It serves a purpose. You know, these characters are so incredibly emotionally unavailable. They're wounded, they're scared, they're lonely, and they try in vain to use this like increasing extremity of their sexual acts with each other, totally devoid of romance, just purely physical. They try to use that as like some sort of supplement or replacement for genuine emotional attachment, for companionship, but they just can't. There's a scene actually later in the manga where it does get very graphic, and there are some pretty, like, I guess, more grosser type of sexual acts going on between these two characters, and they, you know, explicitly say that they keep doing it but it never feels like enough. And that's kind of the whole point of this story is, you know, these characters, they are just completely cut off from this genuine attachment, and there's no support system for them, and there's no way for them to build healthy relationships because they are dealing with so much trauma and so much baggage. And I think it's just a very good story that it is impossible to recommend to anyone.
There you have it.
I think it's impossible to recommend this manga because you have to upfront say to someone, you should read this manga, this comic book about teenagers, young teenagers having a lot of sex.
Yeah, that's a hard sell.
It's an extremely hard sell. But you know, I'm not gonna be the one to recommend it. You know, read at your own risk. If you genuinely do like Inio Asano's other works, this is the same level, the same degree of like extreme emotional brutality that his other manga have. And if you're okay with that, you good luck.
Or if you just like kid sex,
Well, maybe don't.
in which case you should just die.
Yeah, maybe consider doing something else besides reading manga, like going to prison.
Or to bed.
Forever.
Forever.
But the other manga I read was Censor, which, you know, Junji Ito, very obviously prolific, probably the most prolific horror manga artist in the world all time.
Yeah.
Just
Can't think of a second.
pure legend. And Censor, I think, in quite a stark contrast to reading a girl on the show, on the shore, not on the show. In stark contrast to A Girl on the Shore, I think Censor was actually a pretty happy story. Which, you know, a pretty happy story, even by, you know, by like Junji Ito standards, it's a pretty happy story, which, you know, he doesn't always make happy stories. It's fairly good. It's short. It's about, it focuses on, I guess the main character is this reporter who is kind of chasing after this woman who had an encounter with this mystical village that was showered in these golden hairs, uh, which it introduces, you know, early, like the concept of volcanic hair. Do you know what that is?
No.
Volcanic hair is essentially, it's thin strands of volcanic glass that are carried through the air and kind of just land,
Yeah, that
you know, on the ground, and they look like hair because obviously it's like
very
glass.
thin,
It's like a cotton.
ashy.
It's like cotton candy basically, but with glass
Yeah.
instead of sugar. Uh, but it introduces the idea of like this village where the volcanic hair is golden, and it gives its people like extrasensory abilities, like they have telepathy, and they, you know, worship this, they worship a martyred Christian missionary named Miguel, who they believe to actually be the deity that they should worship, despite the fact that Miguel was a Christian. And the village is destroyed, but all of the golden hairs in the village save the village from volcanic destruction, uh, and grant all of their, perceptive extrasensory power to this girl who was a visitor in the village that day, who I guess was foretold and was important. And she becomes kind of the main focus of the story after the introduction, which does, include the destruction of that village. And the story follows this journalist trying to track her down over a long time. And I'm not going to get much more into it because I do think it is worth reading, but it's definitely less. I think it's less scary than a lot of his other works, but I do think it is a very interesting story. And I think it's obviously not very straightforward. There's a lot of things which, you kind of have to get or you have to infer. It doesn't really hold your hand, but I would recommend checking it out. You can purchase it. Junji Ito's Censor. It's his newest work. Very big deal. I like it. How about you? What have you been to?
Well, as per usual, we got to start out with the Legend of Polka roundup. We
Mm-hmm.
have 2 episodes to talk about. The first of which 2 weeks ago, very, very, very good. On a previous episode, I mentioned that they seemed to do a sort of teaser for another episode that they plan to do in the future, where Polka would dress her assistant Izutsu up in various outfits and have a little bit of like a fashion show. And they finally did it. It finally happened, and they had Polka pick out all these outfits, and Izutsu showed them off, and it was just a very fun, just like episode. And Polka surprisingly has a very good nose for fashion. I was
Wow.
very impressed by the outfits she chose.
You
They're all
wouldn't be
like,
able to tell by her character design.
yeah, no, definitely not. I thought she would like throw some shit in that was troll on purpose, but they were all like, shit that you could definitely just wear. It was a very, very nice episode. Um, and then the follow up episode last Thursday uh, almost did not feature Izutsu at all, which is weird because that's one of the mainstays of the show. Instead, it was I think it might have been one of the first episodes where she featured other actual Hololive members.
Wow.
And the premise of this episode, which is also a really good episode, was she was going through Hololive members' Google search history. And there wasn't anything like too insane or outlandish. There would be some stuff that's just like strange out of context, like dolphin eggs, how, or some shit like that. And it's like, why
Was
were
that
you
a real
looking that
one?
up? No, I don't think it was. I think there
Okay.
was some sort of like animal behavior Google that like Miko looked up that was very strange, and it was in that thing, but I don't think it was dolphin egg how.
That would be crazy.
That would be crazy.
Because dolphins do not lay eggs.
Dolphins definitely don't be doing that. But it was, it was a fun little episode. It never seems like it's running out of ideas, and that's one of the cool things about it. Sometimes the ideas are stupid, but at the very least, I can appreciate that they're like fun and original.
That's
But that's
cool.
Legend of Polka. Not much to say about it. Other than that, I've been still reading Jujutsu Kaisen. I don't want to bring this up, with every chapter. It goes on. It's been going on hiatus on and off for the past couple of months, but now it seems like it's getting back into the swing of things, and we're really entering another proper arc. And the last 2 arcs have been crazy. The first of the 2 arcs they've been through, I mentioned before, is just like this big upheaval in sort of the grand stature of the show. Uh, it doesn't really change its structure. It's still doing like shonen arcs, but they're in a completely different context, and you get the feeling that the characters are definitely like way stronger or are getting way stronger, and they're doing the whole shonen thing. And the current arc's pretty neat. They're just like finding this guy. They like go to find this guy who's running like an underground ring of jujutsu fighters to try and like recruit him to like their specific cause right now, and they're just like in the middle of a fight. And I don't know, I like it. I still like, a lot of people have been saying recently, or like, you know, specifically about like after the anime aired, that it's one of the shows that like you really just want to see in motion. And I agree with that sentiment, but I also think the manga does a really good job of conveying action. I think it's very clear like what kind of moves everyone's doing, and there's a lot of character in every specific character's motions. Um, and I think it just like communicates its fights very well, even in manga form, and it's definitely worth a read.
Yeah, that's how I felt about Chainsaw Man when I read it. Like I could definitely I was reading it and I was like, man, I cannot wait to see this in motion because, you know, I guess partially that's because it is following just good principles of sequential storytelling where, you know, you can feel the motion in the static images. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah, I definitely I can definitely get that, like, you know, thinking that it is good even in static images, maybe even though it might be, you know, cooler in motion perhaps.
yeah. That's, you know, just a little Jujutsu Kaisen. Expect to not hear that much about it in the manga. Maybe, uh, you know, I'm pretty sure. Have they been announced for a second season? I'm pretty sure they did, or like they were talking about it.
Probably, but like
It
it's a
seems like one of those
shonen.
things they'll do. It's a
It's
shonen.
gonna be the same. You
It's gonna
already
be the
know what's gonna
same.
happen.
But yeah, you know, it's fun, and I probably won't talk about it that much. I'll probably give it, you know, once every couple of months. I'll swing by and
If
give
something
the lowdown
crazy
on Jujutsu
happens,
Kaisen.
if
If
something
something
crazy
crazy
happens, let me know.
happens, you know, it'll come around every once in a while, but don't expect it from me. Also, something you shouldn't expect from me too much is my secret surprise show,
I've been waiting
uh,
so long to hear what this is.
which I'm kind of glad that you gave me the kid sex angle, because it sort of relates
Oh
with
no.
my secret surprise show.
What does that mean,
Um,
man?
so I've been kind of going on like a spiritual journey
Uh-huh.
uh, of looking at other people's anime lists, and there's a couple standout shows that I would see, and in my mind, and they would be like decently rated, and in my mind, I would look at those shows and I'm like, isn't this show like dog shit? Like, there's no possible value in this show. It is the way that it is. Its value is like base level 1.
It was like, oh,
And
this
I'd
show
see
is an
people,
8.36 on Mount? No shot.
yeah, and I'd see people who have like decent to good lists, at least compared to my tastes, rating this specific show average or above average, and I'd look at it and be like, how did you get here with yourself? And uh so I decided to weather the storm and temper my expectations and really give this show a shot for what it is, regardless of my preconceptions of it. And that show is a little show by the name of High School DxD.
What do you mean? That's crazy. You said I wasn't gonna get it, and you were right, 100%. I thought you were gonna like, I don't know, man. Like I thought maybe we are talking about Made in Abyss or something that you like hadn't
Nah,
watched. I don't know if you've watched Made in Abyss or not,
I
but
have
like,
not.
yeah, I thought you were gonna talk about something like that. But High School DxD, dude.
It's a 12 episode run, and it's something that I've been thinking about for a long time, because of how, like, I don't want to say acclaimed, because it really isn't acclaimed by most people, but there's a lot of people who I've seen think that show is just fine. And in my mind, I've always looked at that show and I'm like, this is just like an abstracted level away from porn. And that's all it is. And it's like, this show is here for when, like, for some fucked up contrived reason, you can't just go to a porn website or something, and this is your only method.
That's
And
kind of how I think of it too.
that's how I thought of it. Um,
Are you?
and then
Am
I
I
watched it,
wrong? Are you wrong?
and I was wrong.
What? Explain.
It is
Don't tell me it's good.
almost softcore porn the whole way through.
Okay.
It gets its quota, but that's not the main focus. It has probably around like 3 to 4 shots of just a girl with her boobs out, and they're bouncing around an episode. But that wasn't all it was, and that was the fucked up part.
Can you
What
tell me
fucked me
what
up
the
was
actual
that
premise is? Because I don't know what the premise is.
it's a it's a slightly below average to average battle shonen. Um, it's sort of like our main character Issei. He is characterized as just like a horny bastard who just wants to look at titties and get a girlfriend. But he's
Chainsaw
also
Man,
got like a good heart.
like Chainsaw Man.
Yeah, like Chainsaw Man. And so the first episode, he's just like, man, I want a girlfriend, but fuck, I'm such a lame bastard. Everybody hates me.
That's
And
what
I get in
I
trouble
think that a
because
lot.
I'm always peeping on the girls while they're changing in the locker room
Okay, that doesn't
through a
happen to me.
weird hole in the wall. And I have my 2 horny friends, and there's this scene in the first episode where they all go home and casually turn the lights off and watch porn together. You know, as boys do.
As
Just
you do with the
boys being
fellas.
just with the fellas. Come on now. And then he like gets up or he's like he like gets asked out by some random girl from a different school, and he's over the moon. He's like, fuck, I have this girlfriend now. I'm gonna do everything for her. She's my she's my everything now. Like I'm in. Like she wants to date a guy like me, like fuck it. But it turns out that this girl is evil and she's a fallen angel, and she basically just kills him.
Oh,
Like he dates her for a couple days, and then she like brings him to a park after a date and is just like, all right, now I kill you. And he gets like speared through the chest, and as he's dying he thinks about this girl that he saw at the school with like crimson red hair, and he's like looking at his hand and he's like, red, like the color of her hair. And he like
okay.
inadvertently like summons her to him, and she's a demon, and she like brings him under her control as like a familiar guy in the service of her household, her Gremory household. And she has this assortment of guys, a little twink guy that I want to bang, and
Cool.
then like a little like mascot character, like little girl, and then there's like a girl with just fat knockers and like dark hair, and she's like a sadist character, and that's really all she is.
Cool.
And they basically fuck around and not really explain much for a couple episodes, and then they're like, yeah, I'm a demon, these are fallen angels. Kind of happens. uh they killed you because you have something called a sacred gear, which is something humans just get sometimes, and it's just like a power.
Oh,
And
okay.
his is something, I think it's called like the dragon driver or some shit.
So
And
I'm assuming our protagonist has the most powerfulest power.
so at first he's like, yeah, your power is like the double drive, and it can amplify your power by like 2. uh and he's like, oh, all right, that's cool. And he's like, well, too bad your power is like 0, and like if you amplify your power, it doesn't fucking do anything.
Lol.
But it turns out that that wasn't his real power.
Oh, who'd have thought?
His real power was the power to like amplify his power by a factor according to his like willpower
Yes,
and his
dude.
desires.
So
And
it's like
so
that's the laziest power of all time. It's just
yeah,
I
and
have
so
the
he can
power
just
to get
get really
stronger when
strong.
I want to.
Yeah. And there's also the like Gremory powers, where everyone who's in service of Rias, the girl with the red hair, um, is assigned a power of like a chess piece. So like the boy is like a knight, and the like little girl is like a rook, and she's really fucking like strong physically.
Mm-hmm.
And then the like sadist girl is a queen, has the power of the queen or whatever, and it basically doesn't mean anything. They just are like power levels. And then Issei is a pawn, but he is every pawn on the chessboard. Um, and they kind of explain that the power of a pawn is to promote, because like if it gets to the end of the enemy chessboard, it can become like as strong as a queen.
Right. It's like, what's it called? Castling?
No, castling
Is that
is
in checkers?
different, but it is in chess.
Okay.
But basically, when a pawn gets to the other side of the chessboard and touches like the opponent's side at the end, it can promote into any piece, which
Oh,
is
right.
usually just a free queen. Um, and they kind of say that like if Issei just charges into the enemy base, that's kind of like a promote. And so if he just goes into battle and just says fuck it, he can just get really strong. Um,
Right.
and he meets like an angel girl who has like a healing sacred gear. And they hit it off because they like she doesn't know that he's a demon, and he's like nice to her, and they go on like a fun little date because she's lost and she's trying to find this thing. And then she finds her thing, and turns out she's like hanging with the fallen angels. And there's this like insane priest who's like trying to rape her all the time.
Oh no.
Um, and then she dies, but then Rias like recruits her as like a bishop. And then so she is now like uh, in the service of Dremery, and she's like a main character now. It's just like a below average battle shonen. The only thing that really sets it apart is the fact that like there will be really, really comical scenes where like they're trying to ham up some sort of emotional moment. Like Issei is like crying that the like priest girl he saved is now dead.
Mm-hmm.
Um, all the while, the like little shirt she has on is like falling down, and her nipple is now out, and it's just like hanging there and like bouncing around as he's shaking her. And I'm just kind of sitting there, and he's like wailing and crying, and I'm like, is this supposed to be really fucking funny? Because it is. Like, you got me. This is really good. Like, I cannot believe this girl is just has a titty out as she's just like being mourned over, and like this was just animated like this.
Like, is this supposed
Like,
to be sad?
is this
Is am
supposed to
I
be sad?
supposed
Is
to
it
be
supposed to
like
be
horny?
funny?
Like,
Because this is funny, but I don't know if you wanted it to be. Um, there's also a scene in the first episode that made me laugh really hard, where like Rias is talking to like the student council president about Issei, and she's like, "That boy Issei, I wonder about him. Maybe he's the one." And all the while, she's just like in the middle of like her like school club room, getting naked for no reason. Like she's actually undressing for literally no reason. And then she turns around and she like moves herself backwards an inch, and her breasts shake for 5 full seconds.
that is so funny.
It's so fun. There's just shit like that all over the place, and like I almost wonder if they were actually doing it to be funny, because it's so extreme that I can't imagine that anyone's getting off on it. But I've been surprised before at things that people get off on. Maybe it is supposed to be like played straight, like yes, dude. But I thought that most of those scenes were just so funny that they were just unfolding in the way that they were. Um, Overall, it was way better than I thought. It was like not good. I'd still probably hit it with a 4 out of 10, but
Mm-hmm.
I can see how someone would like it if they could get past all the horniness, or even better, I guess in their case, enjoy it.
I mean,
Uh,
we have been watching Maid Dragon, right?
yeah, it's way hornier than that,
Right.
but it's kind of funny in its own way. And you know, if you can get past that and are fine consuming trashy battle shonen, where everything is as predictable as it could possibly be,
I
and
mean,
no plot point will surprise you, and the characters aren't that interesting.
people like
Uh,
Akame got Kill, right? Like,
yeah, exactly. Like it's not completely offensive, and it's not an assault to the senses, so long as you can make concessions with it. And I can see how people have made those concessions, and I came out of it with a better understanding of the way people interact with anime.
uh,
So, overall, I think that watching High School DxD was not a useful use of my time, but I did gain something from it.
okay. So you're giving it a hot 4 out of 10,
Oh,
and
four.
I don't know. Do you think that people that are giving it like good scores, do you think they're purely just like smoking crack, or do you think they just need to watch more anime?
Watch more anime, and also I think that if you get to it early enough, like if I was 14, that show would probably bang. You know,
Well,
like I'm
yeah.
14 years old watching that show. That show's sick.
I mean, if
Like
you're
no questions
14
at all.
watching like Akame got Kill, you probably think it
Yeah,
bangs.
true. But yeah, I don't know. I can see it, but I also think that they should probably re-examine it once they've watched more stuff because it really isn't all that special. And everything it executes uh, is executed with only the degree of competence that the show is offering to begin with.
Hmm.
It doesn't pretend to be anything like way deeper than it is. I think it has like a sort of tacit acknowledgement of how like base level and kind of stupid it is. But I think that's like fine.
Okay. Good to know that you're now the foremost authority on High School DxD between the two of us.
Yeah, I also looked it up because I got curious. Uh, they like it is a harem show. Eventually, all the girls do become like engaged to him, but they never bone. So like, what's the point?
Boo.
And that's like one of the things that like didn't make sense to me because it's like you're already showing titties, you're already doing that. Like you can't even give him like a sex scene off screen. Like I'm, it's like all these lengths that people will go to in anime to just be so weird about certain things and never like cross lines. But you've already crossed like a crazy line in television, right? Like showing titties is like a crazy TV line. Like they get that put on TV is like ain't nobody doing that.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you're already past that. So like what's stopping you, you know?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe there is some like television rule that I mean, even they don't even have to show it. They could just like imply it,
Yeah,
right?
like all like, yeah, like I don't know. It's just like stupid virginal protagonists and stupid plot reasons. I don't know,
But I
man.
mean,
It's
that's like a thing that I think is really common in like a lot of anime stories, is especially in
yeah.
like harem type stories, where it's just like, oh, all these characters love the protagonist, but it's like if they show like too much commitment to one character, like if they do end up like having sex or something, then it's like,
Yeah,
oh, well,
true.
you've ruined the marketability because like there's not the will they, won't they, will he really commit to this girl or this girl kind of thing in the story. It's more straightforward now, which there's like less options for you to run that manga forever and ever and ever.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know, it just seems like a weird line in the sand to draw to me and something that would just be like wish fulfillment times two.
Yeah. So, aside from that, anything else you wanted to talk about that you've recently watched or read or anything like that?
No, not really.
Okay. I have. We actually have some big news,
Big
but
one.
we'll do small news first because I want to talk about something that at least I care about. Uh, because I didn't hear much news about this. I initially saw when it was announced, like I think a couple of years ago, maybe, and I didn't really see any news about it until recently at the Fantasia International Film Festival in Montreal. One of the Let me see here. One of the films that won an audience award for best animated film, the Bronze Audience Award for best animated film, was The Deer King. And you probably don't know anything about this, do you?
No, no, nothing about the Deer King.
Okay. The Deer King is a anime film based on the series of novels by Japanese fiction writer and ethnologist Naoko Uehashi. And she has written a number of very successful novels in Japan. She wrote the let's see here, the Guardian series or Moribito series, which is apparently a very good series. A friend of mine is watching. They recommended it to me. I haven't gotten around to it yet, but uh, just a very good fantasy series with a lot of action, a female protagonist, uh, very interesting types of stories from what I hear. I kind of put that off until the Deer King because I'm like, okay, I'll watch the newest thing, and if it interests me, I'll go and I'll watch like Moribito, or I'll read something maybe because it is mostly books, which I don't know how many are like translated in English, but that's just one thing. Apparently, it's good enough to win one of these awards at a film festival. But at the same time, the Satoshi Kon documentary, The Illusionist, which I've heard is like good but also fairly basic, also won an award at that same thing. So I don't know. Maybe it will just be like okay, but hopefully it is good. I saw the trailer, and that's that. It's just movies winning awards at film festivals that was reminded they exist because of that. That's all I really wanted to talk about. That. Looking forward to the Deer King. Do you have a story
Yeah, I'll talk
before we
about
get to our
mine.
big one?
I'll talk about mine.
Yeah.
Uh, new Halloween engine debuted.
Woohoo!
You watch any of them?
Not any streams. No, I can't watch live streams. Like I have to be a highlight or a clip watcher. Even like with regular human Twitch streamers or YouTube streamers or anything like that. It's just I have a disease where if I'm watching something, I have to give it like focus.
Yeah,
And if I watch a live stream, because most of a live stream is nothing, right? Like
yeah,
most of a live stream is like sitting around, boring gameplay, just talking about whatever. And the good parts are very few and far between. So usually with a live stream, I'll look at it and I'll focus on it for like 10 minutes and I'll be like, well, there's nothing going on. And I'll just click out. I'll just stop watching.
yeah.
I can't just leave it on and graze the content as it comes to me. It's not how my brain works. But you are a watcher, right? You watch these streams, yeah?
Yeah, I'll put them on the side.
Okay. How they been?
They've been all right. They all seem like they're still finding their own, and that's to be expected. It takes a while for them to really garner their like community, figure out what they like, what they don't like, what they want to do, what they don't want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and make their own like little community and jokes. It comes with time, and uh, I like a lot of their like personalities. I think they're all very talented. But the one that's been standing out to me is Sukuma Sana. She is the like kind of like alien, like space adjacent girl. She's like Australian. Um,
Okay, she's one of the because there's two Australians. There's the rat
yeah, the rat, and yeah,
and Sana.
yeah, and she's Australian, and she's like likes a lot of good anime. She likes like Uchiten Kazoku and
That's a good anime.
there's another one that's really good that I don't remember. She listens to good music, shit like that. And so I was like, oh, I'll check her out. And she's all right. She is a kind of like an astrology girl, but fucking unlucky. That's how it goes. That's the way she goes.
Yeah, sometimes you get them.
Sometimes you get racism for girls. Sometimes it happens. Can't win them all. I like the rat too. I think the rat's a lot of fun. I haven't watched much of the Nature Girl or the Time Girl. but they're doing numbers. They're popping off a little bit.
Crony is
They're
apparently going huge.
She's going big. She's going real big. Um,
I have a
uh,
theory about that.
oh yeah,
I think Crony is popular for like the same reason that Callie is popular. And I'm talking about specifically with JP fans. I don't know how it is for like English speaking fans, but I think a lot of JP fans like Crony a lot uh,
yeah,
because she's like cringe, but in a way that if you aren't a native English speaker, you can't really, you're not familiar enough with it that you feel it's cringe. It's just like, oh, this person's cool, which is like
yeah.
exactly why I think a lot of JP fans really like Callie, is that Callie is like so cringe, but they don't know. They're lacking critical information to know that she's cringe. So they just think that she's cool because she's acting cool.
Yeah, recently there has been a little bit of a, I guess you can call it a controversy, where the EN girls, the new EN girls, have had like half of their subscribers taken away by YouTube. I
Oh
think
yeah, because they thought they were like
I
being
think they think they're
botted.
bots,
Mm,
but
they
they
really
gained a
just got
lot.
it like that.
Yeah, so they're sitting at like an unusually low count for a new EN generation, but I think Crony is like very clearly in the lead in
Mm.
terms of subscriber count, and most strangely, in terms of new EN VTubers, is they haven't stopped making them. There's another one.
What?
Um, yeah, there's another one that they announced. Uh, I'm blanking on her name. Her name is Alpha or some shit, and they gave her like a Twitter profile, um, and not much else has come out about her. She's just kind of posting.
So like not part of like the official Gen
She's not
2?
part of this Gen 2, but she is
Huh?
just posting. Like her name, she's just like literally on Twitter posting. She's like just a new girl that they announced like I think like the day of or day after. Uh and we'd really just have like no idea what she's about.
Huh. I had no clue. I'm not finger on the pulse of the whole VTuber thing, so like I'm a little bit more casual.
I'm
Like I've
trying
said a
to
million times before.
I'm trying to find the profile here. But I'm having a little bit of difficulty finding it.
You'll get it to me later.
Yeah, I'll find it. That's all the news I got. I just want to talk about VTuber.
Okay. Well, in terms of big news, like I said at the beginning of the episode, anime is saved, and we saved it, the two of us.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to
Yeah,
know why?
I know why, but you could tell good people why.
Because collaboratively, the two things that we're big fans of in anime, we have aligned our psychic energies and caused them to meet and happen.
Yeah,
Now, I, for the most part, with the exception of one show, I like everything that Studio Science Saru has put out. I'm obviously a big fan of Masaaki Uasa, and obviously Science Saru is his studio, or I guess still kind of his studio, but he put other people in charge of it as he's taking a more relaxed role. But anyway, I'm a big fan of that. I'm a big fan of the styles of anime that that studio produces, and you are a fan of Kyoto Animation, especially director Naoko Yamada. And the big news here is that Naoko Yamada has left Kyoto Animation, like professionally, like officially left the
yeah,
studio, despite the fact that she spent her whole career there, like an abnormally long time at one studio. Whole career
yeah.
at Kyoto
Whole career.
Animation, has left to go and work at Studio Science Saru. And apparently, this whole time, for what must have been, a year, maybe two, has been creating a show at the studio directing with screenwriter Reiko Yoshida, I think,
Yes, Rika Yoshida, who
has
was
been,
also working at Kyoto Animation for some time,
yeah.
and
So
is also in Shine Sorrow.
the Dream Team
Yeah, Dream Team. They worked on
has.
K-On! Together and A Silent Voice, and those are both really, really good. K-On! Obviously being one of my favorites. We talked about it at
I haven't
length.
watched it yet.
Yes, we'll get to it when you do.
Eventually, maybe.
No, you will.
But what they're doing now, what Naoko Yamada has been doing with Reiko Yoshida and a bunch of others, which again still exciting, is a show called Heike Monogatari, which is an adaptation of the classic epic of Japanese literature, Heike Monogatari, the Heike story. Uh, the trailer, if you watch it, probably means a lot more if you're Japanese and maybe have a more innate understanding of the story and the events within it. But it's a very impressive trailer visually. I'm very excited for it. It's interesting because the movie currently being produced by Studio Science Saru, directed by Masaaki Yuasa Inuo, is also adapted from a different part of the Heike Monogatari. So we have a series and a film from the same source material being produced at the same time by the same studio. Uh, they have kind of vastly different looks, but again, it is the same kind of subject matter. So I'm interested to see how the studio is able to kind of tell this very classic story in two different ways. I think it's an interesting opportunity to see this story.
Yeah.
And I mean, what do you think about Naoko Yamada leaving Kyoto Animation?
Um, I think it makes sense. Uh, obviously, I think it's not a far stretch of the imagination that it's at least in part related to the Kyoto Animation fire.
Mm.
Um, I think that she's talked before, maybe not directly, but I think there's just like a lot of things that just aren't going to be the same. There's just a lot of baggage that's going to be inherently tied to working there. And I don't think that it would be too much of a stretch to believe that, she just feels like she can't move on, like personally as a human being without like, leaving. And I feel like a lot of, KyoAni animators and people involved in that staff have, mimicked that sentiment. And that's kind of where I'm deriving this assumption from. But obviously, I can't say for certain why she's doing it.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think that it doesn't matter what studio someone whose works I really enjoy is at. It just matters that they are empowered with the ability to create, and I think that Science Saru is one of those studios that empowers ultimately with the ability to create.
Yeah, which I did read this Sakuga blog article about the announcement of this series and about Naoki Yamada's departure from KyoAni, and it does bring up it brings up a concern that it has that the stated purpose of Science Saru was to provide a better working culture and to provide a more humane working culture for anime staff, which, if you know anything about the anime industry, you know that it is a very inhumane and very kind of bad place to work, in Japan or otherwise. And it brings the concern that Science Saru has not entirely distinguished itself in being more ethical than a lot of these other anime studios, and that it may not be necessarily one of the worst or a even comparison wise bad studio, but it is more normal than you would think with its previous stated purpose, which may be a concern for some people. that maybe a creator like, Yamada may not have the freedom or the creative ability to really do things the same way that she did at Kyoto Animation, and she may be, held back by bad studio culture or something like that, bad work culture, which it is possible. And I obviously hope that, maybe if things are not currently good at the studio, or if things are not as good as they should be, that, obviously I hope that the industry does improve. I think that it will probably take, significant movement by the Japanese government to actually make that happen just across the industry as a whole. But I do hope that, at the very least, creators like Naoko Yamada are able to meet their full potential without being held back by bad working culture.
Yeah, I mean, one can only hope.
Yeah. But as far as the actual series, I mean, you watched the trailer. Was there anything in particular that you were excited about, or is it just conceptually the idea of all these, like, just rock star anime people just coming together to make something, that seems to be like pretty, like, I guess, culturally important? We would think it would have like a lot of motivation to make it good.
Yeah, I'm just excited about the concept. I think the like premise is good, and obviously, it's just got so many talented people working on it, and people that I've been watching for a while, and people that have consistently put out stuff that I really, really do like. And I'm excited to see what they put out this time.
Yeah, I'm excited for it too. Hopefully it's good. Hopefully she isn't held back by working at a different studio. Hopefully she's actually enabled to grow and maybe improve over time. Maybe, hopefully anime in general, anime production in general becomes less of the worst thing in the world.
Yeah.
Because I mean it's something that really kind of shows in the product, because when you have these bad working conditions, productivity does go down. And we've seen more than a few productions over the past few years just fall apart under the weight of these horrible working conditions. And these studios that are just making so much more than they realistically can with their staff, and they're constantly having to outsource more and more, which strains the production locally. And it's hard to hire people, it's hard to retain people. There's just, we've seen so much of that kind of show in TV anime productions, and hopefully, this doesn't affect this series, which actually, interestingly enough, airs in 10 days. It's the
10
5th right now
days.
as we're recording this, and it airs on streaming. Heike Monogatari airs on Funimation, and if you're in the West, and on some Japanese streaming service I don't remember the name of. In Japan, it's going to be streaming on those services starting September 15th, and it will air on Japanese television in January of 2022, which I think is interesting. But yeah, I'm just excited that it got announced, and it's going to be available so soon after it was announced.
Yeah. It's just crazy.
Yeah, it's you don't really see that too much in anime. Usually you'll see a production coming a ways out, Like
Yeah.
obviously a lot of people that knew anything about the industry knew that there was a production going on at Science Saru involving Naoko Yamada and all these other people, but it wasn't like official until this announcement earlier this week. So
Yeah.
it's just something I haven't seen before, that something is getting aired so close after its announcement, and hopefully it's good. We will be able to know if it's good in a little bit over a week and a half. So
You'll chop that shit up.
Yeah. Was there anything else you wanted to add about it? Anything you were thinking about the series or the news or just anything in general?
Nah, I got nothing.
All right. So I think that does it for us for now. Hopefully we don't have to wait another 2 weeks to do the next one, and hopefully anime continues to be saved. Hopefully this does save anime.
Yeah.
I think it should.
I'm optimistic.
And if it's a good show, remember we made it happen.
Yeah. You have to thank us.
Yeah,
You have
we
to come
did
up,
it.
share your goddamn ass.
Goodbye, everybody.
Good night.